So today's agenda is to go through a small case study on multivariable control, and this case study is on furnace pass balancing. And if you don't understand what furnace pass balancing is, don't worry, we'll just go over it in the next few slides. So let's see what is the problem. So industrial scale furnaces will typically have multiple parallel passes through a furnace, and that is essentially to accommodate large throughputs. So you'll have, for example, in this case there are 3 parallel passes, and the overall throughput is split into 3 streams, and you have burners for pass 1, burners for pass 2, and burners for pass 3. And what is down here is fuel that is causing the burning, the heating rate. Okay, and because of non-homogeneity in the heating, for example, if you see a flame, there will be a blue part which will be the hottest, and then there will be the yellow part which will be hot, and then there will be a dark dark spot where heating would be the least. So imagine these tubes in these flames, and those portions of the tube that are in the dark spots won't get heated as much, and those portions which are in the blue spot will get a lot of heating. And so there is non-uniform heating in each of the passes, and what you don't want is that the temperature rise across a particular tube be too much, because it is largely in the blue zone, and the temperature rise across other streams, other passes, not so high. So what you want is, because those tubes that overheat can A, buckle, and B, suppose it's a crude oil processing furnace which is heating the crude oil, you will get accelerated fouling in the tubes that are overheated, and then you'll have to shut down your furnace and clean it up, and you don't want to shut down your furnace. You want to make sure that the furnace remains online for as long as possible. So what you want is that each of the tubes foul at approximately the same rate, and that is typically done by ensuring that the temperature rise across each of the passes is the same. That means the amount, so this is called pass balancing. So the amount of flow through each pass is kept such that the temperature rise across each of the pass is the same. This is called furnace pass balancing. So our control objectives, okay, by the way, there's a flow controller there, and you have these measurements, the temperature measurements on each of the pass outflows, and then after mixing the overall temperature, that's over here. These temperature measurements are available, and the flow through each of the passes is controlled, and you can set these flows so that the temperature rise across each of the passes is the same. Now if you look at and of course you've got heating rate Q. Now if you look at the control objectives, of course the first objective is that this outlet temperature should be the same as what you want it to be. So T should be T set point, the specified temperature. That's of course why you put in the furnace. Then the next objective is that the total flow F1 plus F2 plus F3 should be the desired throughput, the desired flow, for example the desired crude processing rate. So the total flow needs to be controlled at the desired set point. And then of course there is this pass heat load balancing thing, where you want that T1, T2 and T3 should be the same. सब्जी वाला आ गया? अच्छा. So what? Okay. Now these 3 control objectives, pass heat load balancing is required so that the furnace can remain online as long as possible, and the fouling across each of the tubes is approximately similar, so that each of the tubes is, when you open up the furnace, its fouling is about the same as the other tube. Now there are two operating scenarios. In scenario 1, we want F total set point to be controlled, but loose control is fine. That means deviations away from the set point, from F dot set point, are acceptable. So loose F dot control is okay. In scenario 2, F dot has to be controlled strictly at set point. That means the total flow F1 plus F2 plus F3 must be F dot SP at all times. Deviations away from F dot SP are not allowed. So these are two operating scenarios, and we'll now develop control structures for each of these operating scenarios. So now let's just apply some common sense. Okay. For scenario 1, which is loose control, I have the instrumentation in front of me. Obviously I want heat load balancing, so each of these outlet temperatures should be controlled, and the simplest way of controlling them is to adjust the flow through the pass. So the temperature is controlled, and the set point of these temperature controllers is the same, and I'm calling that set point T tube set point. So this will give me heat load balancing. Now I've got two options. One option is that T tube set point can be adjusted for outlet temperature control of the mixed outlet stream, and then production throughput total flow rate is controlled by adjusting the heating rate. And the other option is T tube set point controls total flow and Q controls temperature. So here what we have is the temperature is controlled, the outlet temperature is controlled by adjusting the T tube set point, and then the flow through the tubes is controlled by a flow controller which adjusts the heating rate. Let's see how this thing will work. Let us say the temperature at the outlet is lower than set point, is decreasing below set point. So what this guy will do is, oops, the temperature is decreasing, I want the temperature to increase. In order to increase the temperature, this T tube set point will be increased. As T tube set point is increased, the temperature controller here, in order to increase the tube outlet temperature, the pass outlet temperature, the temperature controller here will say bring in less oil or reduce the flow through the tube. As the flow through the tube is reduced, the temperature will increase back up. So to increase the temperature, the flow through the tubes decreases. Now this decrease in flow through the tubes is sensed by this guy. Total flow has decreased. Because the total flow has decreased, in order to increase the total flow, this flow controller will increase the heating rate, and as the heating rate is increased, you will start bringing in same amount of flow while maintaining the temperature. So that's how this guy works. The other thing that I want you to note is that, see, changing tube temperature set point will cause this temperature controller to bring in more or less oil or more or less flow through the tube, and that will have an almost immediate effect on the temperature at the outlet of the tube or of a pass. So what I'm trying to say is, adjusting T tube set point will give fast dynamics. On the other hand, if you adjust Q, first the firing rate will increase, you'll have to bring in more air, more fuel, then the firing rate will increase. As the firing rate increases, the tube metal will get heated up more, and as the tube metal gets heated up more, then the more heat will be transferred to the oil in the tube, and that is how the tube outlet temperature will increase. So the point is, dynamics with respect to T tube set point changes is fast compared to dynamics with respect to changes in the firing rate, changes in Q. Okay, so you expect that you'll get very tight temperature control here, whereas the flow control will be relatively loose because of slow dynamics of this loop. Okay, this is control structure 2. Control structure 3 would be the exact opposite of this, where you are controlling temperature with Q and flow using T-tube set point. So everything else is the same except that the pairings are flipped. So now you got total flow being controlled using T-tube set point and furnace outlet temperature being controlled by adjusting the firing rate. Okay, so this is control structure 3, and you can sort of think through as to how this will work. But in each of these control structures 2 and control structure 3, please note that the control of F tot, the total flow, is actually loose in the sense that you're not at set point all the time. You can deviate and then you'll come back. The controller will bring it back. So the steady average flow would be F tot set point, but if you look at snapshots, small time windows, you will have flow deviating away from set point. And there are refineries that usually will say that okay, the crude processing rate or the crude rate through the furnace should be exactly fixed. You want no deviation away from F tot set point. For this case, we've got control structure 1, and it is slightly complicated, so let me try and explain it to you. So I'm showing these 3 passes. You got each of the flow controllers. The key point is, if you want T1, T2 and T3 to be the same, to be equal, so T1, T2 and T3, what that means is T1 minus T2 is equal to 0 and T2 minus T3 is equal to 0. So what that means is T1 minus T2 must be 0 and T2 minus T3 must also be equal to 0. If these two constraints are satisfied, what that means is T1 is equal to T2 is equal to T3, and that is exactly what we want. Okay, so instead of controlling T1, T2 and T3 directly, what we do is we control T1 minus T2 and T2 minus T3 to 0 degrees Celsius. That's point number 1. Point number 2, which is also necessary to be understood. Point number 2 is, let's consider T1 minus T2, and let us say T1 minus T2, let us say, is greater than 0. What that means is this is hot and this is not so hot. That is why T1 minus T2 is greater than 0. Now, in order to drive T1 minus T2 to 0, what that means is I need the flow through the tube in this tube, because I want the temperature to reduce. Temperature will reduce if I increase the flow through the tube, and if I decrease the flow through the other tube, right? Yeah, if I decrease, so if flow through this tube is increased, what that means is T1 will decrease. Similarly, if flow through the second tube is decreased, what that means is T2 will increase. I hope you see that if T1 minus T2 is greater than 0, then what one must do is increase the flow through tube 1 and decrease the flow through tube 2, and what that will do is it will decrease T1 and increase T2, so T1 minus T2 will go towards 0. Now we also know that we want the total flow to remain constant. So what we say is, okay, if delta F1 is increased by a certain amount, delta F2 must be decreased, because T1 minus T2 is positive. So if delta F2 is to be decreased, you decrease it by the same amount as you have increased F1, and by imposing this constraint, what that does is it ensures that F tot remains constant. So total flow doesn't change, and T1 and T2 are brought towards each other so that T1 is equal to T2 or T1 minus T2 is 0. So this is the basic idea, and this basic idea is implemented as follows. So you've got T1 and you've got T2, you subtract the two and what you then get is delta T or delta T1, and then you got a delta T controller, and what this delta T controller has as its set point is that its set point should be 0 degrees Celsius. 0 degrees Celsius is chosen so that T1 is equal to T2. And what this does now is this delta T controller, delta TC, makes a change in F1, and the same amount of change, its negative, is implemented in F2. I repeat, delta T controller makes a change in F1 and the same change with the negative sign is made in F2. So whatever is the increase in F1 that is implemented, same magnitude decrease is implemented in F2. So F1 plus F2 remains the same. And because F1 plus F2 is the same and there is no change being made to F3, F1 plus F3 remains F dot, no change in F dot. Okay, so that's what you do here. What about making sure that T2 is equal to T3? Well, do the same thing. Same thing in the sense, and I'll walk you through this. You take T2 minus T3, so this is delta T. Then there's a delta T controller and its set point is 0 degrees Celsius. And this delta T controller makes a change in F2 and the same change with the negative sign is made in F3. So if delta T2 controller is saying that increase F2 by such and such an amount, automatically F3 will be decreased by the same amount. So again F dot will not change. Okay, and you'll be wondering why do I have this summation here? This summation here is essentially for F dot control. What if I change the value of F dot? So what you do is, you got F dot set point, this set point can be changed. You got the current F1 by F dot ratio at which the process is operating. So F dot set point is multiplied by the current ratio, and this is the flow that F1 should be, and the magenta lines are corrections to that flow for heat pass balancing. Repeat the same thing on F2, repeat the same thing on F3. Okay, so what this will do is give you heat pass balancing, pass load balancing. It will also ensure that F dot set point is what you want it to be by the action of these ratio controllers. So we have taken care of F dot control, we have taken care of heat load balancing. What we are left with is outlet temperature control of the furnace. So here is the furnace again, and you've got this outlet temperature measured, and what you do is simply, this is the only degree of freedom that is left, so you control the temperature by adjusting the firing rate of the furnace. So I hope this control structure is clear. Now I want you to understand a small thing here. Let us say both this controller and that controller are on manual, and let us say I make a change in this signal. That means, and let us say this change is positive, what that means is F1 is increased and F2 is decreased by the same amount. F1, what that means is F1 is increased and automatically F2 will decrease by the same amount, because that's the way I've implemented the control system. If that happens, so if F1 is increased, what will happen to the T1? So if F1 is increased, T1 will decrease, and because F2 is automatically decreased, T2 will increase. Yeah, and therefore T1 minus T2, which is delta T1, will decrease. Furthermore, because F2 has automatically been decreased and T2 has decreased, T2 has increased, T3 will be the same because the flow through that loop is unchanged. So therefore T2 minus T3 will actually increase. So you see there's interaction. When I make when this signal is changed, so when this signal is changed, this signal right here, both delta T1 and delta T2 change. Similarly, when you make a change here, when this signal is changed, you will find that delta T2 changes, but so does delta T1. So there is interaction between delta T1 and delta T2. This is a 2x2 multivariable system. Right now what we are doing in this control system is delta T1 is controlled based on the error in delta T1 only. It doesn't care about what's happening to delta T2. Similarly, delta T2 is controlled by adjusting this guy, and it doesn't care what is happening to delta T1. So this is decentralized control. What we have right now is decentralized control. But we realize that delta T1 and delta T2 interact with each other, and the time constants of this interaction will be similar. And because it has time constants that are similar, this is a good case for implementing DMC, dynamic matrix control, and that's the next control structure which I wanted to show you. So this is the decentralized control system. However, what we can do, realizing that it's a multivariable system with similar time constants of the interacting transfer functions, what we can do is the heat balancer, which is the magenta curves in these pictures, the heat balancer, instead of being a decentralized delta T1 delta T2 controller, can be made a multivariable dynamic matrix controller. So as usual, we have delta T1, we also have delta T2. These two measurements go to the DMC pass heat load balancer, and it has as its set points, delta T1 set point is 0 degrees Celsius, delta T2 set point is also 0 degrees Celsius, and what it does is it will output delta F1 and delta F2, and this delta F1 and delta F2 are implemented so that if delta F1 is a certain magnitude, F2 will be changed by the same magnitude in the opposite direction. If delta F2 is changed by a certain magnitude by the heat load balancer, then F3 is changed by the same magnitude but opposite direction. And this arrangement ensures that F dot remains fixed. Everything else is the same as before. You've got your F dot controllers, and you've also got your furnace outlet temperature controller. So now this is control structure 1, which is not decentralized. Here we have the pass balancer, which is DMC, a dynamic matrix control. So I hope all these control structures are clear. Now let's start looking at CS1. In CS1, if this HBC that is written here, this is change made in F1 by the heat balance controller. So if heat balance controller increases F1 like this, automatically F2 is decreased by the same amount, so F dot remains the same. And you can see the argument that I gave, you can see that delta T1 decreases and delta T2 consequently increases. Similarly, if the heat balance controller makes a change, delta F2 which is this, then F3 automatically changes by the same amount in the negative direction, and what this does is delta T2 decreases and delta T1 increases. You see, you make a change in one input, both outputs are affected and their time constants are similar. You make a change in the other input, both outputs are affected. So this is a multivariable 2x2 system. The heat balancer, heat pass load balancer is a 2x2 multivariable system. If you are doing CS2 and CS3, so if we are doing CS2 and CS3, now in this case you'll see the balancing is being done by keeping T1, T2 and T3 at T-tube set point, and so I've got a set point change, a change in the F1. All other flows are fixed at the base case value, and what that does is all other outlet temperatures are fixed. I increase the flow through tube 1, outlet temperature of tube 1 decreases. Do the same thing to F2. That means I've increased F2 like this. All other flows are fixed, and what that does is T1 and T3 are fixed, T2 decreases. Similarly F3. F3 is increased, all other flows are fixed, and what that does is T3 decreases, T1 and T2 remain fixed. So I hope this is clear. And using these responses you can tune your controller, etc., and we did the controller tuning, etc. I don't want to bore you with those details. Those details can be found in the paper which is referenced in the last slide, and I'll also upload that paper on Piazza. You can take a look at the paper. But the point is, you got the open loop step responses. Now you can go ahead and tune your heat load pass balancer, pass heat load balancer. Yeah. Okay. Now let's start looking at responses. So what we did was we want to increase the throughput. That means F dot set point is increased by 10%. So 90 total flow was 90 kilograms an hour. So or 90 times 3, 270 kilograms an hour. It is increased to it is increased by 27 kilograms an hour. Okay. And the only thing, okay, let's see. I think because these are things that I've taken from a paper, copy pasted them. Pictures is not very clear, but let's see. This is CS2. This is CS3. CS1 and CS-DMC have perfect flow control. The flow is increased by 10%. CS1 and CS1-DMC give you perfect flow control, and because there is no the heating rate in each of the pipes is the same, therefore there is no pass load imbalance. Because there is no pass load imbalance, the delta T's remain fixed at 0. Yeah, and then your controller basically does whatever it has to do, and you can see that CS1 gives the tightest temperature control. CS2 gives the tightest temperature control. However, the flow control, F dot control over here, you see, this is loose. On the other hand, the F dot control with CS1 and CS1-DMC is perfect. Heating rate profiles are also given there. The thing to note is, whichever is manipulating T-tube set point, which is got fast dynamics, that which uses T-tube set point as the manipulated variable, that gives tight control. So CS2 controls outlet temperature using T-tube set point, so you can see the outlet temperature control is the tightest in CS2. CS3 would be here. This is CS3. That's much looser. And these other CS1 is and CS1 DMC are here. That is also loose, and it is loose because temperature is being controlled by adjusting the firing rate, and firing rate dynamics is slower. That's why the temperature control is loose. Okay. Now let's go to the next dynamic response that we have. Here what we have done is the furnace outlet temperature is, its set point is increased by 5 degrees Celsius, and here also you see essentially the same trend. You'll see that temperature control, you'll see that temperature control is the tightest for CS2, whereas flow control is loose for CS2. On the other hand, CS3 gives relatively tighter flow control. However, the temperature control is much more loose. On the other hand, CS1 and CS1 DMC, they give perfect flow control. Temperature control is about the same as CS3. Alright, and this is to be expected. And DMC or no DMC is not making any difference, because delta T1 and delta T2 are essentially 0, and they are essentially 0 because each of the tubes is receiving the same heating rate. There is no pass heating rate imbalance. It's perfectly balanced. Now let's do some interesting things. Get more interesting when you have pass imbalance in there. So 30% tube heat maldistribution. So what we did was, total heating rate is the same because you're burning the same amount of fuel. However, pass 1, the heating rate increases 30%. Pass 2, it decreases by 20% or 10%. I don't remember, but pass 3, it decreases by 20%. So if you sum these up, the total heating rate is the same. It's just that tube 1 is receiving much more heating. Tube 2 and tube 3 are receiving less heating. And you can see the response. You see this. Now you can see, because there is pass load imbalance, in the sense that one of the passes is getting more heat, the other passes are getting less heat. Now you can see that when you have DMC in there, the delta T control, you see this is the DMC guy, is much tighter. This is the DMC guy, the dash dot line. So you can see DMC is giving much tighter control of delta T1 and delta T2 compared to CS1 decentralized. So DMC does a better job of controlling tightly delta T1 and delta T2, and if delta T1 and delta T2 are much tightly controlled, the fouling will be balanced across the tubes, and therefore your furnace life will be prolonged that much more before you need to shut it down and clean up the tubes and remove all the muck. Okay, so that's that. There is another one that we did, and let's see what that. So pass 3 is fouled, in the sense that we say that pass 3 is overly fouled, and we say that okay, its heat transfer coefficient has become 60% of what it was. So U has gone down for pass number 3. heat transfer coefficient of pass number 3 has gone down by, I think it was 40%. That's what we used. You can look up the paper. Numbers are not important, but the trends are. And here also you can see delta T is much tighter controlled in DMC. And of course you can also see that F dot is perfectly controlled in CS1, CS1 decentralized or CS1 DMC. And that's because delta F1 and delta F2 and delta F3 are moved in a way so that F1 plus F2 plus F3 remains constant. Alright. So that was all that I wanted to tell you. The point is, if you account for multivariable interaction, which DMC truly does, you get tighter control. That was the point that we were trying to make, and that is, I suppose, well made. So now let's go over summary. So when you want tight throughput control, that means F dot should be constant, no deviations allowed. Scenario 2. For this we've got CS1, and what we need to do is control the difference between adjacent tube passes, that is delta T, by manipulating flow through a tube, and then you also force the flow through the adjacent tube to be negative so that F dot remains constant. This is the idea behind CS1, and this action right here, this ensures that T1 and T2 or Tk and Tk plus 1 move towards each other. By the way, whatever I have told, it can be generalized to n passes. The example that we have done has got only 3 passes, so there are 2 delta T's, 2 independent delta T's, but this can be generalized if you've got more number of passes, n passes. The idea will remain the same. Okay. So CS1 and CS1 DMC provide good control, and you get perfect throughput control. What we also saw was that we get significantly superior heat load balancing using DMC compared to decentralized control, and that is because DMC accounts for the multivariable interaction, which was evident in the open loop step responses. If you have loose throughput control, that is scenario 1, CS2 and CS3 both provide acceptable control, and the controlled variable corresponding to T tube set point as the manipulated variable gets tightly controlled. Its control is the tightest because T tube dynamics is much faster than heating rate dynamics. So what that results in is that CS2 gives tight furnace outlet temperature control, whereas CS3 gives tight F dot control. But if you want tight F dot control, you will use CS1. I mean, yeah, so if F dot can be loosely controlled, then we would recommend CS2. If F dot is to be tightly controlled, we will recommend CS1 decentralized. And if you have the time, effort and the energy to develop a DMC controller, CS1 DMC will give you much better pass load balancing. And I suppose that with better pass load balancing, you will have relatively uniform fouling of the tubes, and therefore the life of the furnace till next cleanup will increase. So there is an economic incentive there that makes this worth it, and so you will find that in many refineries DMC is applied for furnace pass load balancing. So that is the end of this lecture, and I hope you found it useful. We'll just end the lecture right now. Let me thank you so much.